transitions kind of out of her role here at the state and into a different role where she is an advisor for the superintendent. You will see Dr. Lawson in these meetings, and you will see Sophia Fitzpatrick, who's our director of certification there. You will see Sophia and I sort of taking the lead with Dr. Lawson as we try to give Kelly a little bit of a break.
Now?
Oh, yeah, now we can.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Kelly, were you able to take roll?
I did it.
Oh, okay, you did it. Okay, so we're all great. All right, thank you so much for doing that. Do we have any new members that are on the board for the first time today in the meeting? All right, then I'm assuming we probably should go through quickly here before we get to public comment and just do some introductions. So I'm Darren Hornbeck. I'm a teacher at Linganore High School in Frederick County. I'm the vice chair, and Melita Kitchen, who's not with us, of course, is the chair. So hopefully she'll be able to join on. And I'll tell you what, let's just kind of go around the screen, and if each person can introduce themselves, explain who they are and what their role is on the board, that would be great. Joy, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Joy Bacon. I'm a high school English teacher in Baltimore City and was nominated by Baltimore Teachers Union. And so I'm really excited to be here. I've been teaching about 15 years and excited to see what our work is about.
Darren, you might want to call on folks because their order may look different than ours. So why don't you call them out?
Okay, I'll tell you what. Okay, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the new folks. Chris McGee. I am an associate professor for Frostburg State University. I'm housed here at USMH in Hagerstown, and I represent MATE. Welcome to the newbies.
All right, and then I think we have Amy.
Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Amy Wilson. I started a new job yesterday and I'm still figuring out my computer. So I'm now the assistant director for K-12 initiatives in the Center for Social Concern at Johns Hopkins. And I am the state Senate president designee. And I know Joy. Yay, Joy. 2 Joys now.
All right, and then we had Amy Poyer.
Hi, I'm Amy Poyer. I am the principal at Shepherd Pratt School in Rockville, which is a non-public school. Great to be a part of this.
All right, and Karen, if you can chime in, I see you're in the car there.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I got 3 grandkids. My son's driving. Sorry about that. Karen Yoho. I'm on the Frederick County School Board. I taught in Frederick County for 25 years, and I represent the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, MABE.
All right, thanks, Karen. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully your signal will last. Sean?
Morning, everybody. I'm Sean Fitzgerald. I am an assistant attorney general for the Maryland State Department of Education, and I advise their certification division and program approval, food and nutrition. And I'm also counsel to this board. So I'm your lawyer. Great to meet y'all.
All right, super. And then Lawson?
Morning, everyone. Sylvia Lawson, Deputy Superintendent for Organizational Effectiveness here at MSDE.
All right, and then I have next Melissa Carpenter.
Good morning, Melissa Carpenter. I'm a 5th grade teacher in Charles County, and I am a designee from MSCA.
All right, and the next on my screen is Kelly.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Meadows, and up until last month, I was the superintendent's designee on this board. I am no longer a member of the board. Dr. Lawson will be filling that seat moving forward, but I am still here and around and able to assist as an MSDE staff member.
All right, thanks, Kelly. And we're really sorry to congratulations on the transition, but we're sorry to have you not be on the board anymore. It's a big loss. All right, Dr. Taylor.
Hi, I'm Winona Taylor, and I represent MATE, and I also congratulate you, Kelly. And welcome to all the newcomers.
All right, and then we have Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophia Fitzpatrick. I'm the Director of Certification here at the Maryland State Department of Education. I recently joined the agency from Baltimore City Schools, where I was an assistant principal. So I'm really happy to be here. And hi, Ms. Bacon. You don't know me, but I know you. My son attends BSA. So.
All right, that's great. And let's see, we have Dr. Zebley next.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Jake Zebley. I am a high school teacher at Aberdeen High School in Harford County, representing MSEA.
All right, and then I have a box marked MSDE. I'm not quite sure what that is.
That's Dylan. He's recording. He's our IT support here. So.
All right. Hi, Dylan. Thank you for recording and streaming. And then I think we had Dr. Kerbeam is the person who's on the phone.
Yes, I apologize. I'm driving this morning. Good morning. I'm Dion Kerbeam. I represent MATE. I work at Coppin State University. I'm the interim vice president and CIO at the university. Welcome to all the new members. And Kelly, thank you so much for all of the service you've done. I appreciate me sending emails and you being so responsive. So much success to you in your new role.
Thank you so much.
All right, and Sandra Skidoris is attempting to join. I think she went to the wrong meeting, so she should be on in just a second. And I just got a text from Melita saying they're at the gate right now. So we'll wait for them to get on the plane and hopefully she'll be able to join us and take over. All right, who did I miss? Did I miss anybody?
I don't know, Darren, if I said who I was, but I'm
Oh, I don't think, I'm sorry, I don't think you did.
I'm Alexandra Canberra. I'm the Director of Program Approval. I formerly worked in the role of supporting Kelly when she was our Assistant State Superintendent, but Sophia and I are the two directors in this division of Educator Certification and Program Approval. And I've supported this board for, I don't know, 10 and a half years.
Yeah, it's been a while. And we're so glad you're still here.
Thanks.
That's great. All right. And one more, let's see, last call. It's hard for me to keep track of the Brady Bunch screen, especially without any assistance from Alita. Did I miss anybody? All right, good. I think we did it. It's been a long time since I've done anything with a large meeting online. It's taken me back to the pandemic days and bringing back all kinds of horrible memories. So anyway, but this is a much more pleasant now. So anyway, all right. And the weather is great outside. So hopefully we'll try and make this as succinct as possible. It's good to get everybody together. All right. So first thing, are there any public comment? I'm not seeing anybody signed in to do that. And I see Alex is shaking her head no. So we'll move on from that. Are there any announcements? All right, don't see anything there. Communications update. Did anybody have anything to share for that? All right, I can share with you that Melita and I think week before last, did have a chance to sit down with the president of the State Board of Education. And so we did have a really good chat with Clarence. This was just a coffee chat, just to kind of touch base between our two boards. It wound up being Melita and I, and Clarence was there, his executive assistant was there. And they were going to have the vice president for the state board there, but that person was unavailable due to a conflict in another meeting. So we just had a little bit of a chat and just kind of talked about where we were with the regs and so forth. And it was, I think, pretty productive, just kind of letting them know what our agenda would be for the next couple of meetings, that we were going to be obviously getting public feedback from the publication of the regs, which I want to say, Kelly, was that on August 14th? Was that when they were published? Or July? July 14th. So that means the window's open till August 14th, letting them know that we'd be collecting the public comment and so forth, be sending it to them and so forth. Anyway, just kind of touching base a little bit. So it was a good meeting. There was nothing substantive handled, of course. It was just a coffee chat. And we met at Coffee and Chaos, which I thought was a hilarious title. And a little bit of probably a double entendre for everything that's going on right now. But anyway, but it was a good chat. So it was nice. They're looking forward to us compiling all the public comments, seeing where we go from there and so forth. And we also suggested that one of the things we'd be doing, of course, in the next few meetings is making sure that the infrastructure to support the regs once they get passed, assuming they will be, is going to be in place. And I said that we were going to be troubleshooting through the next few meetings, just looking at things that probably would need to be done to help the different agencies and stuff adapt to it, the IHEs and the LEAs. So that was pretty much our meeting with that. And if Kelly comes on, if Melita comes on and she has anything else to share, that would be great as well. All right, anything else with communication update? We had also, Clarence was nice enough to say that he would love to attend one of our meetings and chat with everyone. And we thought that was a great opportunity. That's not something that we've seen in a long time. So we'll definitely make sure that that's added to a future agenda once we get a little bit further along in the work. All right, anything else to add from anybody else on the communication side? All right, then I think we're ready for the approval of the June minutes. And Kelly or Alex, who's walking us through that? I know you posted them, right?
Yeah, they're in the chat here. I will say that I miss Joy Spain being here today because she is truly has some hawk eyes on these minutes. But I think content wise, I think I've captured everything. I would ask, because I don't think I was fully at this meeting. So if you could just look over the attendance, the folks that were in attendance, and pay any special attention that you see to any major typos on there. I think I've gotten them, but it's a lot of information, a lot of people weighing in.
All right, so I'll tell you what, let's take about 3 or 4 minutes and give everybody a chance to open those and take a look at them, and then I'll bring us back together.
Great.
Okay, we'll start winding that down. And I have to admit, I wasn't able to get mine to open on this end, so I'm kind of flying blind. So I'm going to rely on everybody else for their feedback with that. And I'm not quite sure who's monitoring or moderating the entry. I know Sandra is trying to get in, but she's having some trouble right now.
Darren?
Yeah.
Oh, this is Dr. Taylor. I will move to adopt the minutes if there are any corrections. It was so much. And I'm like you, I was reading so fast, I may have missed something, but I moved to adopt with any necessary corrections.
All right. So we've had a motion from Dr. Taylor to adopt. Do I get a second?
This is Chris. I'll second it.
All right, second by Dr. McGee to adopt. Any discussion, corrections that need to be made? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Dion Kirby, abstention.
All right, I'm sorry, Dr. Kirby, say again.
I was saying I abstain.
Okay, and Joe, you were going to abstain?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so 2 abstentions.
And Sylvia Lawson as well, because I haven't had time to read the minutes yet, the previous.
Okay,
I abstained as well.
all right. So do we have enough votes to adopt, or do we need to move this to the next meeting?
John, should everyone who was not in attendance last month abstain from this vote?
Generally, yes. It's difficult unless that member has watched like any recording or listened to any audio of the meeting itself. It's kind of difficult for a member to speculate on whether or not the minutes would be accurate. So it should only be those members in attendance if possible.
So we're probably not going to have enough, Darren. We may have to bring this back in September to adopt the minutes.
All right.
Because I believe right now we're sitting at 11 members that are present. When Sandy joins us, it'll be 12 and 11. 10 is what makes the quorum.
Correct.
Okay, so we do not have enough members to adopt. So I believe when we get to the next order of business for setting the agenda, we can set this on our next agenda, correct? Sean, does that sound like the right way to go?
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good. All right, so the minutes have not been adopted, and we will pick that up again when we get ready to move on to next meeting agenda, which I believe is where we are right now. And I'm not quite sure, Kelly, are you going to walk us through that, or Alex, do you want to do that?
Alex can do it.
Okay, great. Super, Kelly.
Cal, I probably need a little bit of guidance. Do we have any ideas for what was scheduled to be next?
Sure. So if we take a look at the agenda for today, usually I just start with that, Alex, because there are some standing items that are a part of every single meeting. And then the board will chime in if there's anything else specific that they want to tackle in September. Now, we know that we'll have all the public comment by September. So I would assume that really is going to be the focus of the September meeting. And I would set aside as much time as possible for that.
Okay.
Kelly, do you know if we've gotten any feedback yet?
We're going to talk about that today.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So yeah, the majority of the meeting obviously is going to be on feedback. I'm assuming we'll also continue our discussion about implementation and so forth and any challenges to implementation. We've been working on a list of what might be frequently asked questions. There'll be some questions as to guidance that we're going to be giving to the LEAs and the IHEs, assuming things do pass. So I'm assuming that'll be an item on the agenda as well. And I'll continue with that charge that each of us continue to go back to our representative organizations, make sure they're aware of what the new COMAR says, and also begin to get their feedback as to what they'll need for support and questions they might have about implementation. So if we can add that also as a continuing item, I think that would be great.
Got it. Darren, communication updates always on the agenda also.
Yes, absolutely.
And don't forget, we're doing the June and the August minutes.
Right.
I got those, Dr. Taylor. Thank you.
And remind me again, the September meeting is going to be on what date? Let's just make sure we get that out there. Did we move that to because
the second Thursday, I think.
So that would be September 14th, I believe.
We also said it was going to go until 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Right.
So it's the 14th.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, for anybody who's new, we
Yes.
have a tendency to
14th.
in September. Normally, of course, we always meet the first Thursday of each month, but because so many school systems are opening and agendas are so packed, we get a better attendance if we move it to the second, which is going to be on the 14th, and that'll be an in-person meeting.
I have a major conflict that I will need to change.
September is hard. It always is. It's about as bad as when everybody's on vacation because everybody has so many things to do. So,
Yeah, I have an in-person training with 75 schools, so I'll be changing that.
yeah, September gets it. Like I say, it's tough. Everyone just does the best they can.
And looking down the road, you will have a stand-in for my position at the October meeting. I'm not sure if it'll be Elliot Schoen, Alan Dunklow, who will be from my office, but someone will be standing in for me at the October meeting, just to get that on the radar.
All right. Sounds great. And we're getting a feedback, Sean. I don't know if that's from your mic or not.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay. All right,
It's like
there we go.
the airport.
I know for a second I thought, wait a minute, Melita's here. I can hear the jet, but she's not. All right. You know, it's hard to do these meetings. Melita has that meticulous notebook where she has every single thing written out. I have to confess, with her being the chair, I don't always do that. So I'm missing her notebook and having her right beside me. All right. Any other items that we need to consider for the next meeting? All right, well then, Kelly, it looks as though you've got an agenda for the next meeting. Of course, we'll leave it up to their discretion and the discretion of the chair should anything happen or come forward between now and then. All right, moving right along. So now we have review of public comment. And I believe, Kelly, you're going to take us through that.
Actually,
I see Alex.
yeah,
and
I think Sophia and I are gonna do that. So these, as we talked about, these draft regulations have been published for half of the 30 days so far. So they were published on the 14th. We have to date received 4 public comments, all from the same LEA and all for the certification regulations 13A12. And so what we typically do here, and you all, those of you who have been on the board know this, we put together a chart where we put the date that we received the comment, the person, the organization that they represent, the verbatim, the comments, and we then have the regulation, the citation for the regulation, for what the changes that they're suggesting, and the original language. So because these are certification regulations and Sophia is our certification director, I'm going to turn to her. She is going to, I hope, share her screen with the chart on there so you can see the comments. And I'll preface it just by saying this is going to be the easiest review of public comment ever for you. So don't get too excited. It's not always this easy. This is the same comment 4 times. Sophia, I'm gonna turn it to you if you're ready.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen, and I apologize. My computer keeps kind of flickering on and off. Dylan, I am unable to share. Alex, if you're the host.
Sophia, 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, please try sharing now.
Okay. Thumbs up if you can see my screen.
We can see
Good.
it.
Thank you. Okay, so the 4 comments that we received for certification for 13A subtitle 12 were all around the 13A 1202, which are concerning conditional licenses for special educators. So I will actually, the comments themselves, I'm not going to read, and I can just leave them up. But the regulation language for the proposed regulations state for conditional special education that a conditional special education license is valid for 3 years and may not be renewed. A local school system, state operated school, or non-public school approved under COMAR 13A 0910 shall request a conditional license only if the school cannot fill a special education position with an individual who qualifies for a license under Regulation 3 of this chapter, and the license holder receives sustained intensive classroom-focused professional development before and while teaching, and intensive supervision that consists of structured guidance and regular ongoing support and mentoring. A conditional license may only be issued to an individual who possesses a bachelor's degree or higher, and an applicant who is issued a conditional license shall pursue a pathway to professional licensure under Regulation 13A1 and 2 of this chapter. The comments around this regulation are regarding extending the conditional license from 3 to 5 years. Since special education continues to be one of the hardest areas to fill in LEAs. So Sean, I don't know if you want to jump in here so we could discuss that, or I can turn it over to the board. That way we can discuss as a group.
No, I'm happy to discuss it.
Sure.
So one of the issues, or really the issue with this recommendation is, in my view, it would be prohibited by federal regulations which supersede. So if I can, Sophia, do you mind if I try to, I guess, would you mind not screen sharing? I'll try to pull up the federal
regulations, sure.
If I can.
Dylan might need to share ownership with you.
Let me see.
No, all participants are able to share right now.
Perfect.
Perfect, thank you.
Give me just one moment. And are you all able to see kind of the highlighted statute that I just put up?
Yes, but Sean, something happens with your computer and we get some massive feedback when you start talking.
It's so strange. Maybe I can try to join on my phone. Am I still getting feedback?
Yes.
All right, I'll tell you what. If it's all right, if we can just pause, I'll just join my phone really quick and try to call in.
Sure. It's nice. It gives everybody an opportunity to read before he gets back on, so.
While we are waiting, I just want to let Darren know that there are a few board members that apparently accessed the wrong link to the State Board of Education meeting. So I believe Charlene Necessary is now giving them the correct link and they're going to jump over. So we should have a few people joining us in a moment.
I know Sandy's in there. Zach came down and told me there are 3 people in there. Sandy's is one of them. So hopefully I just sent her the link. So hopefully they'll be able to get into this link soon. I don't even know how they got on that one.
I don't either. In fact, that's what I was doing right now. I was trying to text back and forth with Sandra to figure out what was going on. So I appreciate that update.
Yeah, Charlene, I believe, is sharing that information. So hopefully they'll be able to jump on here shortly.
Okay. And
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. I couldn't be heard in the other one. Yeah, I went to the other room and I explained to them that I was trying to get in here and they gave me this link because there was somebody from MSDE in that room. So, so they gave me this link. So the other link that I was using from the agenda was taking me to that room.
Huh. I don't know what
Yeah.
that happened there, but we'll try to correct it for next time. But this is the first time we're using the live streaming.
Live stream.
Yeah.
That might have been a separate link. She might have gone to the live stream link instead of the active meeting link. So we probably need to clarify which one is which.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks for the indulgence with technical difficulties. So I put up the federal regulation. This is 34 Code of Federal Regulations 300.156 C2 IC. And basically what it requires is that for educators who are participating in an alternate route to special education certification, which is the federal equivalent of a conditional certificate, those educators can assume functions as a teacher only for a specified period of time not to exceed 3 years. So the concern that I would have here is that the federal regulation, which obviously supersedes, would preclude the extension that we're getting in the 4 public comments are requesting beyond 3 years. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention as far as the concern I would have with that public comment, but from a legal standpoint. But that being the only public comment we've received thus far, that's kind of where we're at from a legal analysis. I know that the public comment period, if I'm correct, and is it Sunday, when was it? I just had it up. Let's see. Does anyone have it off the top of their head? I'm sorry. I just had it up.
For the last date,
Yeah, the end date for the public comment period.
I don't,
I believe
thought
it's the 13th of
Yeah.
August.
That
Sunday the
sounds
13th.
right.
Sunday is the 13th of August, yes.
Yep, there you go. So that would be the end of the public comment window. So I I assume we may get more. Don't want to jinx it, but we'll see.
Now, if someone sends in public comment beyond the 13th, as long as we get it before the next meeting, we'll still get a copy of it, correct?
I would defer to Alex and Sophia on that one.
I'm gonna wait for Kelly to officially weigh in, but we have in the past received public comment prior, and we still have brought it to the group. And I don't see why we wouldn't. I don't know that we have typically gotten it far outside of the window. I think I remember getting some prior. True story, Kelly? Okay.
Yeah, because obviously these are being published during the summer, and obviously as teachers, many of them are on vacation, so they may not be aware of the publication and so forth. So we might get a few extra after people become, more aware if there's any discussion of it once school starts again. So I want to make sure that that's always open. And folks are always able to give public comment. We have a section, on our agenda for it each time, so they can send it to us or send it in writing. So I'm just making sure that we don't, cut anything off, that we keep listening right up to the point of the meeting.
Absolutely. And Alex and I have, reached out to the LEAs, and we will remind them before the window closes again to make public comment so we can reach more people.
Yep, that sounds great. And again, as always, if each of us take it back to our representative groups, I realize we've been working on it so long, and I think there's a danger in that because, we're well aware of it, but, folks are like, well, which, iteration are they on? That it's going to creep up on them a little bit, or sneak up on them rather. So taking it back to our representative groups, I think is always a good thing. And I did want to get back to, because I'm looking now in the public comment. Chris, you had made the question about science of reading. And yes, that is something that we do want to put on future agendas, but I think probably for the next couple of meetings, we're just going to focus on the public feedback. And we also, by the way, I should have mentioned this too when we did the communications update. Melita and I did chat with Clarence to a small degree about the superintendent's ideas on mathematics and so forth. And again, he echoed the idea that at some point too, we invite the superintendent to one of our meetings to go over what his viewpoint is on the teaching of mathematics, because I know that's also in people's minds. So those two are issues that Kelly, Chris, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, because we don't want to let those slide by. Did that address your comment? Okay, I see a thumbs up. All right, so we did. All right, so it looks like there's not a whole lot we could do with public, with the feedback from the legal standpoint as well. I would just recommend that we bring this back again for anybody who's not here, just so that that's also covered in the next meeting, and we review that as well, because I know a lot of folks are out. All right, is there anything else with public comment on that portion of the agenda that we need to go over today?
Not at this time, and Darren, we will send you a copy of the public comments with the federal regulation as well.
Yep, that's great. And I realize we're constantly updating it, but if we can get that a few days before the next meeting, just so we have time to look at it before the meeting starts, I know that's going to be advantageous. And that's, of course, with the understanding we always get an updated copy, because there's always a few things that come in right after you send it out. So we understand it'll need to be brought up to speed again. All right.
Can I ask a really quick clarifying question about the specificity of that public comment? I know we don't usually get back to every person saying this is why we didn't take into account your public comment, but because that's so specific and it is federal law, do we have a mechanism for saying this is why, or is that just bad practice to get into? I don't want people to think we ignored it, but that we looked at it. I guess it'll be in the meeting minutes. Maybe that's enough now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, maybe I answered my own question. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the not only the meeting minutes, but also in theory, this every public comment being reviewed and discussed by the board. Hopefully, if they're also watching the live stream or seeing this discussion, they'll have a pretty clear answer of why PSTEV did not make that substantive change, assuming that's what the board decides to do.
And that public comment came from who again?
All 4 comments came from personnel from Harford County Schools.
Okay. All right. And usually, and that's another thing too, I think that's problematic too, because as new members come in and we don't have all the positions necessarily filled on the board, but usually if there's a public comment that comes from one of the groups that we as a board member represents, I think we generally in some way will reach out to our representative organization to let them know as well. So it's one more mechanism to help people explain. So that's another.
Darren, sorry to jump in, but since it came from Harford County Public Schools, I'd be happy to reach out to that person and have a conversation with them as
That would be
to
great.
our discussion.
And forgive me for not knowing this, I really probably should. But do the position for, we usually have someone from HR on the board. Do we have that at the moment, Kelly?
Like back in the day, Darren, a lot of times PZAM would fill their seats with HR directors, but that has not occurred for quite some time since they've started nominating superintendents.
Okay. All right. Yeah. See, sometimes we have somebody that can easily sort of take that back to their membership, and sometimes we can't. It's a good avenue to provide feedback if we have it. So, okay. And that would understand why that won't work as well. Although that's perfectly fine. They can make any choice they want. All right. So Dr. Zeebly, thank you very much for doing that. We really do appreciate it. All right. Any other comment on this section of the meeting before we move on? All right, so the next part is regulation implementation, transition policy considerations, and so forth. Is there anybody who wants to bring to the table any additional concerns that they might have about implementation that we need to be looking at? And that comes with the reminder that each of us have been charged with going back to our representative groups, talking to them about just reminding them of what the new COMAR is, asking them for any feedback on help that they might need in implementation and so forth. So again, opening it up for anybody who might have any additional feedback on anything they've learned. Kelly, go right ahead.
Thanks. So I know we have some new members today, so I just really quickly wanted to remind and then share with the new members some of the things that we've already talked about and kind of what we're looking for here. We've talked in the past and we'll continue to talk about, what resources would be the most beneficial for our different educator groups as we roll out this massive amount of regulation and change, especially for licensure. So kind of looking at licensure on one side and then ed prep on the other side, 2 different hats when we're thinking about resources. As a teacher, what would be beneficial to you, aside from just, publishing it on our website, like how often do you guys come to our website just for fun, right? So what kind of communication would be helpful for the teacher population, for the HR population, for our certification partners? We have our own ideas, we have our own plans of technical assistance and documentation and the FAQs that Darren had mentioned, but certainly we want to have your constituencies' feedback on what are those helpful resources that could ease this transition.
And I'll tell you what might be helpful, and we could do either now or perhaps at our next meeting. I'm wondering if maybe, and I'm thinking Kelly or Alex or Sophia, if you guys could actually at some point walk us through what supports actually are in place when new COMAR comes out, particularly something that's of this size. And what I'm getting at here is how exactly do we reach out to each of the LEAs? Like what meetings are in place to go over what the regs are, answer their questions, have breakout sessions? What also do we do with our partners in higher ed, the IHEs? So, to be honest with you, if someone said to me, well, how do they actually offer assistance? I'm not quite sure I could walk them through at this point because I'm not aware of that, daily function. So I think it'd be helpful to the board if we could kind of get a snapshot of what normally is in place, what you all plan on doing.
Absolutely. And I can give that to you now. So typically, when we modify regulations, it is not at all like this, right? So we usually will amend maybe a few lines of one regulation, We take regulations to the state board most months, I believe, Dr. Lawson. And so that type of notification and technical assistance is oftentimes very, very different than what we need to plan for here, because we're talking about 8 chapters of regulation, a complete overhaul. So typically, we're going to notify via memorandum, in writing, specific constituency groups that would be impacted by regulatory change. We would plan in-person and virtual technical assistance meetings with those groups or for the public, just depending on what that particular change is. So that's kind of like what we would typically do. And I think each office in the agency, and I don't know if Dr. Lawson wants to jump in here if I miss anything, but I'm sure that each division and each office has kind of their own process where they know who they need to reach out to, who will be affected by certain regulations when they're amended. And we certainly, like we have done for the past several years, try to proactively work with those communities prior to promulgation so that we're all on the same page and we're collaborating. For this group of regulations, now we're talking about a lot more intensive technical assistance. So for instance, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Sophia's certification team has been working for months on back mapping a plan. If we pie in the sky, get those regulations adopted and effective January 1st, what needs to happen, starting a month ago, 2 months ago, in order to prepare our certification partners to take on that work, in order to have the documentation needed to roll out things like the individualized plan for renewal. What kind of FAQ documents are necessary? How do we need to update our website, and how do we need to change our certification system so that it can accommodate all of these new things? So that's something that we've been working on for a long time, and we will roll it out systematically.
All right, any questions?
This isn't a question, and I'm sorry, it's more technical stuff, but I've been communicating for this full time with Charlene Necessary, who has found that several of us who are in this meeting are also in the state board meeting link for July, and I don't know how that happened, but that's where Sandy was. I know one of our staff members, Melissa Chandler, who's our national board coordinator position, she's in there. So I am just letting you know that there may be people jumping in who have been in the wrong link, but that is being monitored. And for Dylan, who's on here, I don't know how that happened, but maybe we can troubleshoot next time so we can get everybody in the correct link. I don't even know how they got the wrong link. They're totally different links, and we did not send them out. So just a heads up. Sorry.
All right, well, we appreciate the update. By the way, now's a good time to remind everybody that our next meeting is in person. And if you're wondering why, you can shoot me an email and we can have another conversation, but I think it's pretty obvious now. So the challenges of doing this are extreme. But anyway, I think everybody's doing a great job. Kelly, can you walk us through any of the work that's been done so far? Have you had any meetings with IHEs and LEAs about the upcoming stuff? I know they've been briefed occasionally, but is there anything that has happened that we probably ought to know about? Just help us understand it better.
Sure. So as far as certification, and I can certainly turn to Alex in a moment, but as far as certification / licensure is concerned, we have quarterly meetings with our certification partners, and we have almost 100 of them across the state at this point. So we meet with them quarterly, virtually as a very large group, and because we just released a new certification system in April of 2022, it's kind of gone hand in hand, and we've just been working very, very closely with that community in general because of everything that we've rolled out. They are very aware of the regulations. We prompt them every time they go to public comment, keep them in the know so that they can provide public comment. And in fact, during the last round, some of the, I think, most useful public comment we got that led to substantive changes that we made came from that community. So we work with them on a daily basis. They each have direct access to a certification specialist that they're assigned to. So if they ever have any questions about where we are in the process, they can always reach out and have a one-on-one conversation. As far as educator preparation is concerned, there's also a quarterly meeting called the Deans and Directors meeting. MSDE has a standing agenda item on that meeting, and we always give a regulatory update as part of that standing item. And again, I know Alex pushes out all the notifications about public comment and when we make changes and that sort of thing. So I know that they will provide public comment as well.
Yeah, and here's a good place too, just to produce a nice compliment, because every time we've gotten public comment, it has been so well organized by all the folks at MSDE. It's just, you guys do a phenomenal job, because I mean, the packet was this thick when we were first sending it out. I think everybody who's an older member of the board probably remembers that well. But if you're coming on, this has been a long process. It's taken quite a few years. And when you talk about the amount of public comment we got before, compiling it into, and you saw the sample there with the columns and so forth, it was crystal clear. And without that, I don't think we would have gotten it nearly as polished as it is right now, because that really organized and helped our thinking. So again, kudos to that. And we're really thankful for the work that you guys do with that. It helped us so much.
And actually, just to follow up on that, Darren, I think it would be really helpful if we sent, because we have so many new members right now, Alex, if you could please send a copy of the presentation that we delivered to this board in, I think it was February, where it was kind of like that massive overview of history and major public comment, substantive changes we made, like all of that when we asked the state board. Remember, we asked the state board to adopt in January, and then we came back in February and gave that presentation. I think that would be a nice overview.
Is that the
for
deep
our new
dive?
members. I'm sorry.
I think it's the deep dive.
Yes.
Yes, that's what it was called.
Yes.
In fact, I've used that a couple of times when people have come and asked me questions. I'll go back to those slides. Those are very informative. They're laid out so well. Actually, to me, if you sent that out again to the entire group, that would be fantastic. Just send it out to the whole board again. Because I mean, I know we all have it, but it'll save folks from having to go back through the last file and figure out which meeting it was in and so forth. But that was a great document. So crystal clear. So yeah, great idea with that. You mentioned that, Sophia, you've been working on implementation plans and so forth. Are we at a point where at some point you could walk us through at a future meeting kind of what you've got in mind?
I'm hopeful that by October, we should be able to walk you through something in terms of how we are going to structure the in-person training. We're thinking about at this point, possibly training the LEAs over a few days here at MSDE, and then also having some additional technical assistance as we move into the new year, if the regulations are adopted. So, of course.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but that would really help, I think, us understand how to go about giving feedback as well, if we know what's in the works. That's great. I really commend you on the work that you're doing. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Makes all of us feel a lot better too, I think, to know that things are in place and working along. All right, so we'll kind of think about putting that on the October agenda, and then you can let us know. And if there's any updates you want to offer, of course, please feel free to jump into any meeting and help us see where you are right now. All right. Oh, the other thing too, I think, just to throw this out again, when it comes to the PDP points, just having the infrastructure in place in each of the LEAs to be able to track that, I'm kind of curious as to how that's going to work, because I think that'll be probably technologically, from what I'm hearing, one of the bigger challenges. My guess is, just from talking to my LEA in Frederick County, it looked as though they just need to see if the vendor can produce a page that can help track all that stuff that we currently work with for our technology. But I imagine each of the LEAs will have to do that. So anyway, that's just something I just offer as something where I'm a little nervous about it, as to, you know, how each of the locals are going to do that and what assistance they might need in that process. And Kelly, do you know who in MSDE probably assists in that kind of area when they have to build a tracking system of some kind?
I don't. And quite honestly, I don't know if they reach out to us for that type of advice. The one thing I could see is them working with the certification office just to ensure that all of the fields that we create in our tracking document are represented in their own system to make sure that it mimics. But other than that, HR offices and locals rarely reach out to us and ask us advice about their in-house employee tracking systems, to my knowledge. Now, I'm not the CIO, but to my knowledge.
Okay, and that would make sense. But already that's helpful, because it tells us that, yeah, there are probably fields that they're going to have to generate and so forth to match yours. So that's another thing to kind of keep, I guess, track of, make sure that that's in place. because we certainly would want it to be uniform. And of course, we'd want that too, to make sure there's a fidelity to the level of rigor that's, being offered as well in those areas. So, all right. Sounds good to me. Does anybody else have anything to offer as far as regulation or implementation concerns that you have at this point? I continue to hear questions about, am I grandfathered in, especially when it comes to PDPs, renewals, things like that. What happens if I'm halfway through? And those are all questions that we've had before. But eventually we're going to need to have, some FAQs and some concrete answers to those as well. So I'm sure you're working on those. So just a reminder in that regard. All right. Anybody else with any kind of regulation implementation concerns at this point for that part of the meeting? All right, I am not hearing any. Is there any other business that needs to be brought up that we have not covered so far on the agenda?
This is not new business, but at the beginning of the meeting, I thought I heard that for the new members, there would be some type of training. I was not aware of that. Is there anything else after this meeting that new members are going to be expected to be involved in?
Just the orientation, Dr. Lawson.
Say that again, Kelly.
Just the orientation session.
Okay. And that will be on the same link to stay
It will
here?
not.
It
I
will
have
not.
sent a separate invite to all of our new members, and Dr. Lawson, I can certainly send that to you if you would like to attend. But that is sitting in your inbox if you have not seen it, for those of you who have just joined us for the first time this meeting. So we will not be doing that in an open meeting. That will be a private meeting.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Sure.
Kelly, is that immediately following this? Because I know it's got a scheduled time, but it will be.
Yes, we were planning on this taking the whole time. Since if we do end early, then absolutely I'll just adjust it a little bit to be whenever we end.
And we'll learn why we're not doing it in an open meeting, and all about the Open Meetings Act, and all about ethics disclosures, and all about all the laws that we have to follow. So it's always a great time learning about laws, right?
It's actually really good. I have to tell you, I've gone through the training multiple times, and it's really interesting. And it also helps you understand a little bit of the history of the group and how we operate. So anyway, a warm welcome, by the way, to everybody who's on the board. This is a nice board to be on. And I think you'll see that we all generally get along extremely well. I think it's a very high functioning group, and I think it's because it's made up of so many experts from so many different areas. So there's a brain trust, I think, that you'll find in this board that's very inviting. And I also think you'll make a lot of connections and learn a huge amount of stuff, because I'll tell you, to me, it's like having an extra, I don't know, sometimes I think I should get like an extra degree or something because of all the stuff I've learned, if I could write my own course just from being on this board for the last few years. But anyway, you'll like it. It's a good group. So welcome aboard. All right. I do not believe there's anything else for the agenda that we have not covered. I'll wait one more time. Anybody else have anything they need to add? Good news, bad news?
I just want to say one thing. I just saw in the chat Dr. Bauer-Zebley asking for a copy of the federal regulations. I'm going to really quickly download that and post that in the chat before we leave. So I just want to make sure I get that to him. I apologize for missing that comment.
All right. And
Thank you, Sean. I was about to ask, but you got it. Thanks.
And that reminds me too, I've tried to monitor the chat, but is there anybody who put something in the chat that I have ignored by accident and we need to cover? With my apologies, of course.
I put the deep dive PDF of that presentation that Kelly did in the chat. I will also email it to everybody on this board. But I wanted to just let you know it's there if you want to preview.
Right. And Sean, since we have so many people and some folks that are trying to do all of this on the phone as well, maybe if you could send that out to the members of the group, that would be great too, just by email. Is that doable?
I'm going to ask it just so we don't inundate you with emails. Let's have Sean email the link to the actual legislation, and because Sophia's already prepared another memorandum from the U.S. Department of Education that's going to help. Let's send everything together. So when Alex sends that deep dive, let's just put all those documents in one email, so you're not having to sift through to find stuff.
That's a great idea. Love that.
So I'll just email it to Alex right now, the copy of the statute.
Yeah, it takes me a half an hour. The last time I checked my email, my school email, because obviously we're not in session, it took me a half an hour just to get rid of all the junk mail that comes in. I don't know how I wind up on so many things, but anyway, that helps. Yeah, so put a little thing that says important, not junk. That might help.
And a copy is in the chat in case anyone wants it, wants it now, but I'm emailing it to Alex as we speak.
All right. All right. All right. So seeing no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
All right. Dr. Taylor has moved to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So that's been seconded by Ms. Lawson. Any discussion? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye or waving at the screen. I think we can do it that way. Don't tell me if we can't. Any no votes? Any abstentions? All right. With the reminder that if you're coming in for training, make sure you check your email for that link. Many thanks to everybody who took part in their morning to be with us. The weather is still gorgeous outside. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful summer, and I look forward to seeing all of you in person at the September meeting. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
Great job, Darren. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Juggling. I'm going to learn to juggle. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I miss Melita.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
See ya. Thanks, Sean, for all your help.